Hey guys, welcome back. So last time we included this picture right here, and as I said, on this episode we are going to be making this functional. That is, when we click on these buttons here, or these colors here, like color selectors here, right? When we click on them, we want um we want it to change here. Okay. So maybe we might even now go ahead and do something fancy, maybe in the next video or something, but let's just stick to what I want to do on this video. All right, so this is where we are at right now, right? You see now this, they are not functioning. I'm clicking and they are not functioning, okay? But we want to make them functional, okay? So we're going to use ALPINE.JS to do that, okay? So let's go into it. So this is right here. Let's go to the image section first of all. Where's that image now? Select color, class. Okay, yes, so we can put it here, right? But first of all, let's declare our state for the image. Okay, so I'm going to say img. This is for our image now. I want to declare the variable state, basically. Well, just a second. Alpine says state, won't declare state. So I'll say, I'll call it, I'll give it, what do I give it now? I'll give it this right here, right? I'll copy this image and put it right here. Just a minute, you see what I'm doing, right? I give it this, right? So the value of this img is this image here, right? So what I want to do is that, okay, let me explain to you. What I want to do is that I want to bind the different pictures, of the shoes. I want to bind it to each of these color icons here, right? So this one now, this black, I'll bind it to this picture here, so that if I click on this, I'll now the code. Okay, let me explain it now. This whole box here is going to be working with Alpine, right? So there's not going to be an official image here, right? So I'm going to set a functionality that when you load the page at the beginning, Alpine is going to look at it and going to say, oh, this image, it has a state here, an Alpine state. Okay, what does this state what does this state have inside its pocket? Like an array, right? But not an array. So let's say if you were doing, I'm trying to see how I can make it simpler. Let's say if you're doing something like PHP, right? Where you declare variables. Let me see. I can show you. When you declare variables now, you can easily say, if you're using PHP, you can now say maybe $car, right? Equals to something, right? If you were doing, if it was PHP, right, you could do something like this. So basically what you are declaring a variable. Then I think if you're doing JavaScript, is it Java? I think, 'cause I don't really code on JavaScript, so you do maybe like const, that's like constant, right? And then maybe constant can something, and then you write something. I think there's also another one, let's so be some. So basically what I'm trying to do is that I'm declaring a variable with states, right? So now I've declared the variable in the state. I want to now bind, remember I said I was going to bind, I want to now bind that variable, what is inside that variable, I want to bind it to this image source. So now when I click on the icon, right, Alpine is not going to be looking at the actual image, it's going to be looking at the variable that is bound to the Alpine, right? Let me show you. So these are the pictures, right? So when I click on this black, right? When I click on this black, Alpha is going to do something, right? So I can now say something like, like at click, right? So I can say something like at click. Then I want to now set the variable, that variable that I declared already, img. I want to now set it to something, right? So I can now come here and still set it to this image here. can now come here and set it to this image here. That's what I'm trying to do. Okay, this is supposed to be a string so that it understands what I'm saying, right? So I can now do something like this. So remember when I taught you Alpine, right? And I taught you some various features of Alpine. This was one of the things I taught you about. So if you're not too clear with this, you can go and check that one out. So when I click on this, I'm telling Alpine, hey Alpine, set this state here that I already declared above here, right? You know right now is this. So when I click on that, set this variable, that variable now, set it to what is actually here. That's what I'm trying, that's what I'm saying. Okay? So if you don't get it, you just follow along, you get it in a minute. Now another challenge is, okay, so since I already have it defined here, right? And I'm saying when you click on this thing, set it to this image, right? So how does this one now change? How does this one that we already, because this is static, so how does it now change, right? So that's what we're going to do. So Alpine has a feature whereby we can bind things like I explained to you. So you can basically bind a class, you can bind a source, right? You can also bind a text. So we're going to bind this image now to the Alpine state that we declared. So how do we do that? By using the semicolon, right? It's a shorthand for semicolon. So if I wanted to bind a class, what I would do is say colon class. That's how I'll bind the class. So I'm going to bind a class. You can see it here, X bind. So this is just a shorthand, colon class. All right. So what's happening is that I'm binding this because I'm letting Alpine know that, okay, you see with this bind now, there's supposed to be an actual image here, but there's no image here, so I'm putting this state here, right? So use whatever is in this state, whatever this state refers to, put it inside this image. I think it's simpler now. So what that now means that if I now come here and start using all these images, right? This is green, so let me use something like this. If I now come here and start using these images and I put it here, right? So this is green, so I want to say there green here. This is white, this is white, red, this is white, pink, this is blue, green. Okay, blue, green. Okay, black, green, sorry. So I'm gonna come here now and I'll say this one should be black, green, right? So let me just do all this real quick and then I'll explain to you. So this is pink, so this should be like white, pink, something like that. White, pink. Then this one should be white, red, because this is red. White, red. Then this is white, white. Okay. White, white. All right. So that's super fine. Okay. So what I've now done now is that I've now made this variable here. Now made this variable here dynamic in the sense that when I click on this icon, right, Alpine will set this state that is originally this. Alpine will set it to whatever is here. The same thing if I click on this icon here, Alpine will set this state to this. So it is no longer what is above there, it will now be this. And remember that we bound this state to this image. So when we click on this and it changes to this, Alpine will now put this image here, will now put it inside here. I hope that's clear. All right, I hope that's clear. So let's go now and see if we've done it right or if we've not done it right, and then do it again or see what's wrong. Okay. All right. So we refresh. So you see now, you see what happens. So if I click, you see that it's changing, right? So that's exactly what I said would happen. So you can see them now. But notice something that happens at the beginning, right? Something happens at the beginning. I want to show you that. When we refresh, you notice it showed you that thingy like could not find image, and then later now, right? So that's a glitch. Alpine is glitching, but we don't want it to glitch because it's not nice when we try and load something and then you're showing me no image and then you now pop up the image, right? So we don't want to do that. So what we can now do is use xcloak in this image section here. So I can come here and say xcloak, xcloak. I can just put xcloak here. But would xcloak actually work? Right? Will it actually work if I put just xcloak here? It won't really work because I have to define what's it called now? I have to define the display hidden, right? That's how xcloak works. So if I refresh, you see it's still giving you that glitch, right? So what do I need to do? I have to now define the what's it called? The display hidden. So I'll come here just before the closing tag of the head, and I'm going to use a style function, style tag rather I meant to say. So I'm going to say style, then I'll close it. Then inside here I'll now declare the xcloak. Then I'll now say, so it's kind of like putting a class there. It's kind of like putting a class that toggles. So Alpine understands that, okay, when you have xcloak, it means that use what is in the class first. But when something is triggered, because it now has a listener, so when something is triggered, right, when a variable changes, remove the display none class from it. That's what basically what it means. Okay, I hope that's clear. All right. Because if we just come here now, if we just carry this display none and put it down here, where is it? If we carry the display none and put it somewhere here, right? If we put it here, it means that even when we click on the buttons, it will not change because this display none class will still be here. It will be stuck to it, right? So another way we could basically do it is now using a ternary operator, where we can now bind the class to it and say, okay, if this is clicked or if this is selected, change the class to him. But that is kind of like, why go and reinvent the wheel or something like that? Why go through the hard route when Alpine has already given us xcloak, right? So we can do xcloak, and I think with that we should be fine. So you see, it doesn't give you no image. It just hides it until Alpine sets it, and then it shows. So that's how easy you can do that. Although if you still want to go further, right, it's up to you, and you can play around with how you want it to show, right? So I actually did that, but I didn't really go deep into it. I just did something really small. You might not even really notice it. So what I did, Alpine has an what's it called now, a transition, like when something's leaving and when something's showing. So you can play around with that feature. I just did something like this. I said Alpine I said X transition enter, right? And then I just set the number and say, okay, scale by 80%, right? Then when you are leaving, there's another X transition. When you're leaving, I want you to also scale by 90, basically, I think. So that's basically what I did. For it. All right, so you can play around with what works. You can actually use it's not anime style or something like that, or animate. So just actually animate it better, and whatever you want to do. But that's just what I did. It's just a little something that you might not really notice, but it just I just like it. Okay, so that's it. Okay, so I hope you kind of enjoyed this, right? So you see how easy now. So it looks very nice. So on our last video, I'm going to show you how to now make all of this responsive. That is, you see now, see it has broken, right? So I'm going to show you how to make it responsive. This right here, this at the bottom, right? This at the bottom is fine. I mean, for mobile view, it's kind of okay. All right, but you see here, this is lost. Now I can't even see the other part of the footer. I can't see it. I can't find it. Right, this right here is scattered, and then this one is I would like it to be in the middle. Right, so next episode, which will be the final episode of this project, I hope you've enjoyed it so far. If you have, please leave a like. So I'm going to be doing that. So stay tuned. I've been Ola. Share this, like this, subscribe, and please hit the notification bell. It helps the YouTube algorithm to show this video to many more people. So I'll see you next time. Bye bye.